Hello, I'm Andrew Kistler, and I'm from Montrose High School. I spent my summer at Colorado School of Mines in the M3 Robotics Lab, working with Dr. Petruska. So what I did was I worked um, with a lunar rover that prepares landing sites for spacecraft on the moon. So it fills in craters, moves rocks, compacts the ground, and gets rid of anything that would inhibit a spacecraft from landing. And the issue we had with it was in order for it to perform how it will on the moon, where the gravity is 1/6 that of what is here on Earth, we had to drop the weight significantly. So the one that will be sent to the moon is a 500 kilogram class rover, but in order to test how it will perform on the moon, it needed to be 80 kilograms. And with that huge weight reduction, we no longer had enough margin to put in a battery. And this needed to be running for a 14-day test, so we had to figure out a way to power it. And so that's what this is. This is what I worked on, which is an autonomous gantry system. This whole thing, once it's completed, which I think is nearing its completion now, I didn't get to see it, will be raised up, and this whole structure, that whole truss in the middle, is able to move back and forth, and the whole thing on top is able to move across the truss, so it's able to get anywhere in the test bed. Because sorry, I didn't mention that's what we were building. We were building a lunar test bed. It was able to get anywhere in the test bed where the rover moved and basically just dangle a power cord to it so that we could get power to the rover. More specifically, what I worked on with this is I worked with a time of flight sensor. It basically it sends out a light beam and times the amount of time from it bouncing off an object and returning back to the sensor, and it can give a pretty good estimate of how far away that object is. And so this was crucial for the gantry system, as in order to know where to move it, we needed to know where it originally was. And so this is one of the sensors, and those are some of the mounts that I designed. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Those are some of the mounts that I designed. That sensor we ended up not using because it was off by about 15 feet, which is not really acceptable. So, and then this was a little project. Basically, our place we were working in mainly was a giant metal building with no AC, and I thought it was hot until I heard about the 118-degree weather. It was about 90 degrees most days, which is nothing compared to that, I guess. And so it was important for us to drink water in such a hot place like that, and they had an alarm going off on people's phones to remind us to do that. But that's kind of lame for a robotics lab. And so they had me design a PCB that basically makes a very loud buzzing noise every hour or so. I unfortunately ran out of time before we could get it all ordered and actually finished, but it was still a really good fun process in learning how to use the software to do that. I used a program called EagleCAD. Housing, sorry for the really awkward looking slide. I didn't really think to take many pictures of my house that I was staying in. But I stayed in a sublet little townhouse with one other roommate he went to Colorado School of Mines as well. He was a computer science major. I didn't see much of him. He was he lived in his room most times, so that's fine. Yeah, it was a super nice neighborhood. I cooked for myself. I ate pretty much the same 4 meals on repeat for most days. But I skipped I didn't get to go to the pinhead cooking class, and I kind of regretted that.
Mandatory next year, mandatory.
It really should be mandatory, I agree. I went mountain biking quite a bit. On that ride, I almost ran into a rattlesnake. That was kind of rough. I went and saw a DCI show in, Fort Collins? Yeah. And then I saw a Rockies game with my uncle. It was fun. They lost miserably, but I wasn't surprised. And then some surprising things I learned. I was surprised how much you have to account for in engineering. Our limit switches, which is right there, basically just stops the gantry from going too far and falling off its tracks and killing itself, basically. And so once it reaches the end of its tracks, it'll bump that little switch and it'll stop it from moving anymore. But we pressed the switch and nothing happened. And that's because of this whole mess of things causing a lot of electromagnetic interference, which we didn't account for. as so we had to end up shielding all the wires. And then this was OSHA telling us that they really didn't like our exposed wood on this project. We spent 3 to 4 weeks assembling, and so we had to completely disassemble it and paint it with fireproof material. That was a really fun 3 days where I got to learn how to unscrew things really, really well. Advice for future Pinterns, take advantage of every learning opportunity they give you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It can be kind of intimidating with some really smart people. I worked with a guy who was getting his PhD in moving aluminum with magnets. I still have no idea how that works after 7 weeks of talking to him, but and then make good relations with your colleagues. It was a lot more fun when I got to know my colleagues towards the end of my internship. And then I'd like to say thank you to all these people.